He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
We begin tonight with a terrifying concept.
A frightening article.
They're calling it Project 2025.
Incredibly important reporting people need to pay attention to.
This plan that they want to put in place if the Republican Party wins the presidency upon the inauguration.
According to the New York Times, those plans include bringing independent agencies under direct presidential control.
It's kind of being pitched under the guise of dismantling the administrative state.
They say they would plan to do this with any Republican president.
It's about deregulation. It's about deconstructing the administrative state.
There's a network of conservative groups who are backing this effort, like the Heritage Foundation.
Take this very seriously. Don't think this is a joke.
It is incredibly alarming.
Frightening development.
You don't have to be a civics dork to know that you don't want that.
We've never seen anything like this in American history.
Rachel, I want to.
Well, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Ministry of Truth. I am the one host on this show, and we're going to talk about Project 2025. Whether or not I believe it's a psyop to make Americans believe, oh, this is what the Republicans are going to do when they get control of office, because who else is telling you all this? Who else but the media? Now, is Project 2025 something Donald Trump endorses? We'll let you know. But I'm going to tell you right now, that's not what he plans on going through. And no matter how many times the media says it, the Heritage Foundation does not speak for the conservative people or the Republican Party or Donald Trump. Now, let's get back to the mainstream media and let them continue to tell you the lies that Project 2025 is what Donald Trump plans on enacting on January 1st, 2025, which is weird because that's not even Inauguration Day.
I want to ask you a provocative question because I respect your take on these things so much. You and I share the belief that Donald Trump's a threat to democracy, our institutions. I don't know that the stakes have been this high in modern history in a presidential election. Yet I'm skeptical of polls. We all are. Trump continues to outperform Biden in key battleground states. Is there a world in which Democrats should have a backup plan for Joe Biden?
A backup plan?
If he needed to be replaced on the ticket. If we're 3 months out and Trump's still beating him in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina.
I mean,
So they did a poll. Forgot what channel it was. They have, of all the nominees they can put up right now against Donald Trump, the one with the highest likability of getting more than 16% was Kamala Harris.
I think the backup plan is run a better campaign, right? There's no reason that Joe Biden's record as a president is a very, very strong record. I mean, we are the economic envy of the world. Right. Doesn't mean our economy is perfect, but literally we are the envy of the world. We've got a better situation than anybody. We've got unemployment rates that we haven't seen in generations. We've got economic growth that any major country in the world would kill for.
Yeah, but that's not the information that they're getting on Fox.
Wait. But it's true.
Every other country in the world except for Argentina, which magically over a few months, their debt turned into a surplus. Interesting. Hello, Jenna. How are you doing, ma'am?
And so Biden hasn't been disqualified from running for the presidency by anything having to do with any of his performance. It's just that it's going to be a tough fight. Yeah. And so I think the backup plan is fight harder. Yeah. The backup plan is make sure you win the Senate. The backup plan is people should volunteer earlier and do more and give more money and do all of those things. And there's no reason, I think, to have it be there'd be this fantasy that Biden's
Good,
not
good.
the president and that
Right.
Biden isn't the nominee. He is and he's going to be. And I think
Yeah.
that's a fixed variable.
Rachel, you had Dr. Fauci on your show last night, and you talked with him about how he really suffered
Dr. Scum.
from the last administration's attack on his expertise.
All right,
now,
Satan's chicken
along
who's
those
the big
lines, there's
chicken
this
soup?
so-called Project 2025. It's an agenda the far-right conservatives are pushing for, and it has some really concerning
right. I'm
attacks
glad she
on our
said that,
institutions.
because when I was reading the Agenda 2025, I looked at it as a far-right agenda because who do I see? Well, Heritage Foundation and Pete Hegseth. You know, Fox News contributor.
Like eliminating the Department of Education, replacing government employees with political appointees. How realistic do you think these proposals are? Because that part scares me. All of that scares me way more than even Donald
And
Trump.
it's like 800 pages long.
Yeah.
900.
So here's the thing.
900.
When Donald Trump won the election in 2016, fair and square, he said it was rigged. He won the Republican
Hillary
primaries.
Clinton.
He said they were rigged. He ran for re-election in 2020. Before the election, he said it was rigged. Then when he lost the election, he said it was rigged. He does not like elections. He does not like voting as a system by which we decide who's going to be the president. When he was running for re-election in 2020, the Republican Party
If you vote for Donald Trump a couple years ago, you should be stripped of your rights to vote and put into an insane asylum.
decided they were no longer going to have a platform. They abolished their platform and said, our new platform is whatever Donald Trump wants, we're for that.
That's right.
So if you
Again.
don't stand for anything other than what
Project 2025 is not a Donald Trump platform, never has and never will be.
he wants, you don't vote, you just put him in power. And once he's there, nobody is allowed to disagree with him or say anything that he doesn't believe.
And what
It's
is
just-
that called?
That is what a lot of other countries all around the world have, and it is not democracy.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
he's trying to
democracy
get
is
rid
not
of the
what we
American
are
system
either.
of government. And that means getting rid of a government that does anything other than serve him. And that's what Project 2025 is all about. And that exists everywhere in the world, and it has never existed here before. And so I really
Project
think the bottom line
2025?
here is that Trump and his movement, they are not running against Democrats. They're running against democracy. They're running against the democratic process. They want to radically
We are a
change
constitutional
the kind of
republic, not a
system that we have, the government that we have.
Yeah.
And
So if he wants to
We're
ruin
alive.
democracy, I'm all for it.
as American citizens in that time, and we're going to be the ones who decide if the American system of government survives or if it's taken over instead by a strongman authoritarian form.
Right. And this is what Steve Bannon wanted.
Yeah.
And predicted. But let me ask you this, Rachel. We're still we're awaiting a number of significant Supreme Court decisions, right, coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks, including the ruling on Trump's absolute immunity case. He wants absolute immunity. Yes, it gives me a headache. Keeps me up at
That's
night.
partial,
I know you
so-
Oh.
can't see into the future, but any chance you think the court actually sides with Trump here, because they would have to just twist themselves into pretzels to actually give him absolute immunity, but will they give him little pieces of it, do you think?
It's crazy that they took
Now
the
with this immunity thing, saying that the president can pretty much have the federal government do anything that they wanted without repercussions. Wouldn't that protect Obama? Wouldn't that protect Biden? Wouldn't that protect George Bush? You know, all these presidents that were pro-war, that committed war crimes. Yeah, how about those guys?
case at all.
It is.
And then once they've taken the case, you have to think, well, why did they take the case? The easy thing to do is say, are you crazy? No.
Right.
There was a perfectly good lower court ruling that said nobody is immune from the law in America.
well-written one.
That's how you spell America. That's who we are. That's what we are as a country. And instead, they were like, oh, no, we actually think this deserves our attention. And now they've been sitting on it for months.
Yeah.
So that does not
Well,
make me
the Supreme
optimistic
Court has more than
about
one
what they
case
are
to
going
hear.
to do. That
I don't
said,
know this.
in realistic terms, he's already got immunity because they've already delayed things so long that the stuff that he did in 2020, he's not going to be tried for before he potentially gets back in the White House. And then once he's back in the White House, all those cases go away. Because he makes
But
it
not
go
the New York case necessarily.
No,
What's going
the
on
New
there?
York case, but you know, once you're sitting president of the United States and your probation officer is calling and saying, actually, you're consorting with convicted felons because you've just appointed a bunch of convicted felons to be your advisors, you can't do that. What do you think the president's going to do? Follow the rules of the New York Probation Department? Appear at Rikers because he's violated the terms of his probation?
That's fair.
It's just not going to happen. And so he, through political force, has already effectively got, and through the Supreme Court.
Don't forget, they allow people to use Donald Trump as political fuel to where they can actually, have beheaded Donald Trump. They could put hanging Donald Trump dolls in the streets, and get away with it. Or hell, we even have motherfuckers saying that, oh, maybe we should have Joe Biden tell SEAL Team 6 to take out Donald Trump, and he can get away with it. So you're all about asking about murdering a presidential candidate and thinking, he's going to get away with it. Murder has nothing to do with political elections, you stupid fucking dummies.
Delaying this so long, he's already effectively got immunity, and whether they choose to rubber stamp it formally is going to be a scary
All right,
thing.
we've all
Hunter
been
Biden had
watching the
immunity.
Supreme Court, and they're, pretty ethically challenged, in my opinion, especially two of them. And even Roberts doesn't seem to be stepping up to control the. Is there anything we can do about it?
Roberts is the right point there. John Roberts is probably the most
Supreme Court is there to, what's the word I'm looking for? Verify the laws. Make sure they're still constitutionally allowed. So they're not supposed to be biased. Wait, unbiased. They're supposed to be unbiased. And you're telling them, hey, if they're voting this way because of Trump. There's a couple of times that they voted against Trump, especially the guy whose name she just remembered, John Roberts. Wouldn't he's a nominee, right? Trump nominee?
important person in America right now when it comes to whether we're going to keep our system of government. Because Trump's involved in all this criminal stuff, and so he and his movement and the whole Republican Party, I mean, the Speaker, the House, all of them are saying the American legal system is corrupt and rigged and we ought to get rid of it. That's not great. What do you have if you don't have a legal system anymore? But on the other hand, then you've got everybody trying to stand up for the legal system.
Just imagine one of those Nazi doctors and Rachel Maddow. It looks just like one of them.
Say it's not rigged, it's legitimate, we need to support it, but the Supreme Court is flagrantly corrupt.
Yeah, that's right.
And so John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, there is flagrant corruption. If you think, if you had, so I work at MSNBC. There was a member of my family who's lobbying the White House Chief of Staff saying, overturn this election result. You think they'd let me cover that election result? Let alone give a binding judicial ruling on that election result? I mean, the blatant corruption of a couple of these Supreme Court justices is John Roberts' problem. He's the Chief Justice and he has to police it to save his court and to save the legal system. So we have something to stand up for.
Will he, though? He's iffy.
So you are back with season 2 of your hit podcast, Ultra.
What is Project 2025?
So this is the Heritage Foundation. What? Yeah, go ahead. This is the Heritage Foundation going over their Project 2025, which, you know, according to the mainstream media and lefties, and even some far-right conservatives, this is what Donald Trump plans on implementing when he gets into the White House in January 2025. Is it?
It is everyone here. This is the movement. We are going to be prepared day one, January 2025, to hit the ground running as conservatives to really help the next president. Heritage got on the marker as an organization by delivering the first mandate for leadership in 1980 to President-elect Reagan. We also, over time, gave a lot of resumes in. But when Dr. Roberts came aboard, he said, this task in 2024 is too big for any one think tank. This has to be a movement. And what we've done is use our convening power here at Heritage to bring the entire movement together. So 2025 is not a Heritage thing. It's a conservative movement thing. We're going to explain briefly here. We're going to have a panel.
Oh, there it is.
And we'll have a video.
Movement. Don't they call Trump's the MAGA movement? Just, you know, maybe I heard things wrong.
But what we're doing is systematically preparing to march into office and bring a new army of aligned, trained, and essentially weaponized conservatives ready to do battle against the deep state. So if you would, join me in watching the video and inviting our fellow panelists here, Ed, Rick, and Ken Cuccinelli, over. So we'll cue the video and have a little discussion. What is Project 2025? It's a call for you to come work here, Washington, D.C.
Conservatives face a tough challenge in Washington, the swamp. The left has built a system that blocks and sabotages our efforts to run our government and deliver a conservative agenda.
People would come into the government on behalf of a president and not be bought into the agenda that he was elected to do. They were either uncommitted or incompetent.
Things aren't going to change unless you commit to serving our country.
We want to make sure that the plans that are in place have been vetted so that the person knows not only what argument and excuses come in their way, but what the answer is, and have the trust of a movement-wide effort led by the Heritage Foundation to make sure that they know that it's credible and it's conservative.
This time, we have a secret weapon. This time, we have Project 2025. By learning from the experience of former
companies, the link for these two projects, Project 2025 and Agenda 47, they're both in the description. So go ahead and take a look at them if you want to read it for yourself, or
conservative appointees, we can overcome common obstacles and get things done.
The reason I got involved is because I wanted to be part of a movement-led effort, and Heritage Foundation has used their influence to be able to convene the movement.
We can be ready to hit the ground running on day one of the next administration. In the wise words of Morton Blackwell, you owe it to your philosophy to study how to win. Project 2025 will ensure a conservative agenda is ready to roll on day number one.
Make sure that we, as conservatives, are prepared to hit the ground running January 20th, 2025. To learn more, go to project2025.org. Great. Well, let me explain briefly how we've structured Project. Thank you.
Nobody cares about the structure.
Let me give you a little overview how we've structured this, and I'm going to pass the mic over to Rick Dearborn to give you a little bit overview from his viewpoint as Deputy Chief of Staff in the White House and running the last transition. We have 4 pillars we speak of, and this is an integrated approach. First, as you know, today
So this is Project 2025. The agenda, it's a book. Go figure. This book is an invitation for you, the reader, Mr. Smith, Miss Smith, and Miss Smith, to come to Washington or support those who can. Our goal is to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state. Well, that doesn't sound very, American, doesn't it? But, it's, what the conservatives envision as a good world. But is it really, though? Now, one of the things they're going to bring up, not so much in this one, which they must not have added it. Yeah. So they're going to talk about, God damn it, you cocksucker. They're going to talk about veterans. So look at me. They're like, oh, they're going to cut veterans benefits. They're going to make it harder to get veterans shit with VA. I'm like, you know what? That sounds pretty fucked up. Let me go read this. Now, not saying that I still don't think this is a psyop, but they're kind of lying. Oh, my bad. It switched screens on me. So you look at this. This is Project 2025. Veterans Health Administration needs reform. Rescind all departmental clinic policies directives that are contrary to principles of conservative governance, starting with abortion services and gender reassignment surgery. That is the very first thing that says need reformed. Everything else that they talk about need reformed are 100% accurate in what we need. This right here, this is what they don't like. Because why should the VA pay for abortion services and gender reassignments because the VA healthcare system is for service-connected disabilities. So they only half-assed told you this, so it makes me believe the whole entire thing is more of a psyop to make people believe, well, this is the way the country is going to be if we're not careful, right, guys? We need to be careful. It's bad for this country, and we don't know how it is going to go forward from here. Well, I want to hear what Donald Trump says about Project 2025, considering that's what they're saying that he plans on implementing from day one.
For focus right now on President Biden and the future of his campaign, Donald Trump chose today to try to distance himself from Project 2025. That's the 900-plus page document from conservative advisors at the Heritage Foundation, which lays out some pretty aspirational goals to reshape the federal government and, frankly, American life if Trump were to win in November. Well, on Truth Social today, Trump wrote, "I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them." Several Trump allies, though, do have ties to Project 2025, including two of its authors, Dr. Ben Carson and Ken Cuccinelli. Mark Meadows and Stephen Miller are with groups on Project 2025's advisory board. Senior advisor Peter Navarro, who is, of course, in prison, is also listed as an advisor. My panel is back. So, David, Donald Trump is distancing himself today from Project 2025, saying he's not involved here. These, though, are people who would be likely to have significant policy roles in the administration.
And it's funny because they're already going to say Donald Trump, he 100% supports it because, well, it's what they're telling us, right? If they're telling you that's the way they're doing it, it must be true. Project 2025 is the way of the future, according to the mainstream media, liberal media, and the far-right conservatives. Now, let's say there's a group called the MAGA movement, which, it does have its outliers that are kind of retarded, just like any other organization, group, community, individual, the same shit. But let's, instead of, hearing what they want Donald Trump to do come his first day in office, let's hear straight from Donald Trump what he plans on doing with the actual Agenda 47 that is going to happen, or he plans on making happen. So let's hear about it. No. Yes. What's up, Laura?
If America is going to dominate the world in manufacturing once again, as it did when I was running things, you remember when they used to say you can't have manufacturing jobs in our country anymore? I said, really, why? And we created hundreds of thousands of them. But we must be the most affordable energy and electricity place anywhere on the planet. We have to have affordable energy. Right now we have energy that's weak, substandard, and unaffordable. It's made by the wind. The windmills rust, they rot, they kill the birds. It's the most expensive energy there is. And we have other things that are also no good. It's called the Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Hoax. One of the reasons manufacturing jobs were flooding back into the United States when I was president was that we dramatically reduced energy costs. Sadly, crooked Joe Biden sacrificed this tremendous economic advantage on the altar of the Green New Deal, perhaps because he was bribed by Communist China or because Communist China knows all of the money that they've paid him. We have a Manchurian candidate. That's what he is. He's a Manchurian candidate. They know everything about him, and he's scared stiff. He won't do a thing. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China,
a year ago,
and Joe Biden's afraid to even talk to him. Biden's war on American energy has sent prices soaring, and his latest actions will make it catastrophically worse. It's going to be bad at a level that we've never seen. This will be so bad. Under Biden's newly proposed power plant regulations, most natural gas and coal plants will be forced to shut down. By the way, they tried that in Germany, and now they're going back and building coal plants all over the place because they've destroyed Germany. They have no energy. So Germany now is building a coal plant every 2 weeks. And China is building a coal plant every week, every single week. They're putting up a new coal plant, and we're playing games with the wind. This is terrible what's happening to our country. There is nothing to replace our energy at this time, not even close. It's very expensive and it's very weak. It doesn't have the power to power up those big plants that you see. At the same time as Biden is shutting down existing power plants, he also wants to force hundreds of millions of Americans into ultra expensive electric vehicles. They cost twice as much as what you have, and what you have is better, and it goes a lot longer, and it's a lot easier to fill up. And we have liquid gold under our feet at a level that no other country has. But they'll strain the grid to the...
Here's the funny thing. Oh, we're gonna run out of fossil fuels anytime soon. No, that's not true. We actually have an unlimited supply. We just can't drill down that far.
Breaking point. It already is at a breaking point. If you look at California, it's got brownouts and blackouts every single day. People can't turn on their air conditioners. And it'll drive electricity prices into the stratosphere. If Biden's policies go forward, our electricity costs will be the highest on earth. They're already very close with shortages.
This happened a year ago. From that point when this first came out till now, my electricity alone has gone up $150 a month.
Blackouts and crippling inflation. U.S. manufacturing will be dead, absolutely dead, and China will be laughing all the way to the bank. They will end up controlling the world. My plan is the exact opposite. As president, I will set a national goal of ensuring that America has the #1 lowest cost of energy of any industrial country anywhere on earth. I want to be #1. We were energy independent just 3 years ago, and now we're begging Venezuela for their oil, and yet we have many times more than any other country. There's no country, Saudi Arabia, Russia, no country has what we have. We will develop the liquid gold that is right under our feet, including American oil and natural gas, and we will also embrace nuclear, clean coal, hydropower, which is fantastic, and every other form of affordable energy to get it done. We will not only match China, we will be cheaper than China by a lot, and more energy will mean lower inflation, and it'll mean more jobs. I will cancel Biden's ruinous power plant rule, terminate his electric vehicle mandate. If you want to buy an electric car, that's fine, but you're going to be able to buy every other form of car also. And unleash domestic energy production like never before. But just think of it, energy independence 3 years ago, energy dominance was going to follow very shortly. We're going to pay off our debt, we're going to lower taxes for everybody. And they ended that, immediately ended it. First day, they ended it. I will fully modernize the electric grid to prepare it for the next 100 years, implement rapid approvals for energy projects, and greenlight the construction of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of brand new beautiful power plants that actually work. This will pave the way for an enormous growth in American wealth. In the future, every manufacturing plant, every data center, every semiconductor facility and assembly line will want to be built in America. They're all going to want to be in America. So we're going to have the lowest cost of energy. It's a big factor. This will be the place where the cost of energy is lower than any place else on earth, where the economy is stronger than any place else on earth, and where the workers are the best, brightest, and most talented anywhere in the world. I want to thank you very much. We cannot let this...
Think about that, though. His plan to build, go back energy dependent, drill, refine, create our own, power plants and all that. That's going to help everyone. We can save the environment because we now have cleaner ways of developing energy that don't involve putting giant windmills in the air that can kill birds, leak hydraulic fluid and oil all over the fucking place because those things are fucking huge. Or we can do solar. Let's tear down a bunch of fucking trees, acres of trees to put up acres of solar power, because why not, right? We just killed a bunch of trees and all the wildlife that came with it.
There is no more dire threat to the American way of life than the corruption and weaponization of our justice system, and it's happening all around us. If we cannot restore the fair and impartial rule of law, we will not be a free country. As president, it will be my personal mission to restore the scales of justice in America. We will have fairness and equality under the law, and to that end, I will appoint U.S. attorneys who will be the polar opposite of the Soros district attorneys and others that are being appointed throughout the United States. Very unfair to our population, very unfair to our country. They will be the 100 most ferocious legal warriors against crime and communist corruption that this country has ever seen. As we completely overhaul the Federal Department of Justice and FBI, we will also launch sweeping civil rights investigations into Marxist local district attorneys. And that's what we have. They're Marxists in many cases. By refusing to charge countless crimes, these Soros prosecutors appear to be engaging in selective enforcement based on illegal racial discrimination. In Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and every other city where these maniacs have taken over, the DA's offices should face federal subpoenas of their staff, their emails, and their records to determine whether they have blatantly violated federal civil rights law. As part of this effort, there should be a federal inquiry into the Soros prosecutor in Austin, Texas, who charged a veteran with murder for defending himself against a threat
He has
by a
since
heavily
been
armed
pardoned.
member of a radical left mob. I will also order the Department of Justice to establish a task force on protecting the right to self-defense, which is under siege nationwide. In addition, we will have a complete investigation into the use of police state tactics by federal authorities to arrest conservatives and Christians. We will find out who ordered it, and we will hold them totally accountable. There is much more that we must do. We have to confront this radicalized law in schools. You take a look at what they've done to our schools, our beautiful schools. We have to reform the far-left bar associations and stop the purge of conservative lawyers from major law firms. I will do whatever it takes to save our legal system among the greatest achievements of Western civilization from the Marxist barbarians who seek to destroy it. And we will do that. We will save it. Thank you very much.
I don't know how much he can do that one because aren't district attorneys elected by their voter base? I guess some are appointed, but not all of them. So changing that, would that change? Remember, this was a year ago. Knowing what we know now and how a lot of this soft on crime bullshit that's been happening in this entire country, which makes it okay for people to, sell drugs, kill people, rape children, abuse children, murder people, trafficking drugs, trafficking people. So there's things that, they can turn a blind eye to, right? Right? But let's focus on the wrong things and arrest those people.
I was thrilled to host a screening at Bedminster of the important new film, Sound of Freedom, about the power of faith in overcoming evil, and in particular, the evil of child trafficking. Big problem. We had it down to the lowest number in many years, just 4 years ago, and now it's gone through the roof.
I had no idea he was going to say that.
Even though the fake news media has tried to ignore it, Sound of Freedom has been a national sensation and a colossal success at the box office, really big numbers. Everyone should see it. This is a very important film and very important movie, and it's a very important documentary all wrapped up in one. It's really about...
Don't forget, they called it a right-wing conspiracy movie because child sex trafficking does not happen. Right? Right? It's just a conspiracy.
An issue that has to be discussed. Under my leadership, we did more than any administration in history to combat human trafficking and to end modern-day slavery. In one of my first acts in office, I signed an executive order targeting transnational criminal organizations that traffic and exploit innocent people. I signed the Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victims Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act, authorizing $430 million to fight sex and labor trafficking. I signed legislation to crack down on foreign countries who are not meeting standards for eliminating trafficking, of which there are many. I also signed into law the Abolish Human Trafficking Act, which strengthened programs supporting survivors and provided more resources for ending modern slavery. We do have modern slavery, if you can believe it. Additionally, I created the first ever White House position focused solely on combating human trafficking. And perhaps most importantly, we created the most secure border in U.S. history by far, dealing a major blow to the cartels and traffickers. We built hundreds of miles of wall. We renovated hundreds of miles of wall. We never had anything like it. And then I got Mexico free of charge to give us 28,000 soldiers to protect us from people coming into our country illegally. When I am back in the White House, I will immediately end the Biden border nightmare that traffickers are using to exploit vulnerable women and children. We will fully secure the border. I will wage war on the cartels just as I destroyed the ISIS caliphate, 100% gone, 100% destroyed. They'll come back now because we have a weak administration. I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by...
No, a lot of the stuff that Biden had to do with sex trafficking never were actually any bills signed. Donald Trump actually did more for child sex trafficking than Joe Biden did as far as bills. So far, what it looks like is Joe is just like, you know what? Not my problem. Let's leave it up to the states. Huh. Okay. That's kind of weird because that's not how I thought it would be.
Returning all trafficked
there's no
children
federal
to
law
their
on it.
families in their home countries and without delay. And I will urge Congress to ensure that anyone caught trafficking children across our border receives the death penalty immediately. And that includes also for women.
Tammy.
Because women, as you know, are number one in trafficking. Children are actually number two. I want to thank Eduardo, Jim, Tim Ballard, and everyone else involved in this film for their incredible efforts and their great genius. Together, we will end the scourge of human trafficking, and we will defend the dignity of human life. Thank you very much.
I believe the nominee that they wanted, not him, but Ballard, wanted to become Mexico's president, who I think is also up for election this year. Not the one it is now, but a nominee that's very pro ending child sex trafficking. So that would be a help on both sides of the fence if that was possible, if that happened. And they're talking about using military.
Our once great cities have become unlivable, unsanitary nightmares, surrendered to the homeless, the drug addicted, and the violent and dangerously deranged. We're making many suffer for the whims of a deeply unwell few, and they are unwell indeed. The homeless have no right to turn every park and sidewalk into a place for them to squat and do drugs. Americans should not have to step over piles of needles and waste as they walk down a street in a beautiful city, or at least once beautiful city, because they've changed so much over the last 10 years. Our first consideration should be the rights and safety of the hardworking, law-abiding citizens who make our society function. When I'm back in the White House, we will use every tool, lever, and authority to get the homeless off our streets. We want to take care of them, but they have to be off our streets. There is nothing compassionate about letting...
So, are we going to take back all these migrant buildings since you're deporting them? Can we do that? You know, fix them up a little bit because apparently they got all that taxpayer money to include cities where they just expanded their monthly debit card allowance, you know, taxpayer money. Imagine how that could go towards the homeless. But will it happen? Probably not.
These individuals live in filth and squalor rather than getting them the help that they need. We need professionals to help them. For a small fraction of what we spend upon Ukraine, we could take care of every homeless veteran in America. Our veterans are being treated horribly. Likewise, with all of the money we will save by ending mass unskilled migration, we will have a huge dividend to address this crisis in our own country. Under my strategy, working with states, we will ban urban camping wherever possible. Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated. Many of them don't want that, but we'll give them the option. We will then open up large parcels of inexpensive land, bring in doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists, and create 10 cities where the homeless can be relocated and their problems identified. But we'll open up our cities again, make them livable and make them beautiful. For those who are just temporarily down on their luck, we will work to help them quickly reintegrate into a normal life. For those who have addictions, substance abuse, and common mental health problems, we will get them into treatment. And for those who are severely mentally ill and deeply disturbed, we will bring them back to mental institutions where they belong.
There it is.
With the goal of reintegrating them back into society once they are well enough to manage. It's a tough task, a very tough task. What's taken place on the streets, what's taken place with their taking so much drugs. But the fact is, we're going to try. This strategy will be far better and also far less expensive than spending vast sums of taxpayer money to house the homeless in luxury hotels without addressing their underlying issues. And they have so many of these underlying issues and needs. This is how I will end the scourge of homelessness and make our cities clean and safe and beautiful once again.
This is also before they started taking in these mass migrations, building these migrant centers. Oh, shit. That has changed that much in a year?
We will do it. We will bring back America. Thank you.
Sounds like he wants to take the homeless people and put them in concentration camps. I mean, that's if I was the left, and that's how I wanted to spin it, because Donald Trump's the new Hitler. Totally forgot this was before they take over the cities and schools. But they found places to put them that were not schools and the streets, but somehow they couldn't find it for the homeless. Cool. Cool. Imagine if they could buy a large piece of land and turn it into a community. You know, not so much a asylum, but a merit-based community where you get drug tested. And you get, like, probationary periods until you're just kicked out. It's kind of like welfare. Wait, that's not like welfare at all. Gotta work for it. Merit-based. And it helps them keep and maintain a job as well in that community. Like a community garden. Or the community trash men. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's just stupid. Maybe that's just stupid in my mind.
In recent decades, there has been an unexplained and alarming growth in the prevalence of chronic illnesses and health problems, especially in children. We've seen a stunning rise in autism, autoimmune disorders, obesity, infertility, serious allergies, and respiratory challenges. It's time to ask, what is going on? Is it the food that they eat, the environment that we live in, the overprescription of certain medications? Is it the...
Maybe it's all the stuff that we're allowed to put in our food that is illegal in just about every other country in the world. Maybe it's that.
Toxins and chemicals that are present in our homes. Every year we spend hundreds of billions of dollars to treat these chronic problems rather than looking at what is causing them in the first place. Too often our public health establishment is too close to big pharma. They make a lot of money, big pharma, big corporations and other special interests, and does not want to ask the tough questions about what is happening to our children's health. If Big Pharma defrauds American patients and taxpayers or puts profits above people, they must be investigated and held accountable.
Pfizer.
When I'm back in the White House, I will establish a special presidential commission of independent minds who are not bought and paid for by Big Pharma, and I will charge them with investigating what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic illnesses. I understand Big Pharma, I believe, better than anybody else. I know where they're coming from. And then I will ask them to publish recommendations for how every American child can have a safe and healthy childhood. This is a conversation that is long overdue, and it's a conversation that American families deserve. American families must have this conversation, and they must have a leader, a president, who can do something about this problem. And I will do that. Thank you.
Oh.
Joe Biden has launched an illegal foreign invasion of our country, allowing a record number of illegal aliens to storm across our borders. From all over the world they came. Under Biden's current policies, even though these millions of illegal border crossers have entered the country unlawfully, all of their future children will become automatic U.S. citizens. Can you imagine? They'll be eligible for welfare, taxpayer-funded health care, the right to vote, chain migration, and countless other government benefits, many of which will also profit the illegal alien
anchor babies,
parents.
is that the politically correct term? I don't give a fuck. Yeah, anchor babies. That's how they got to stay in the country.
This policy is a reward for breaking the laws of the United States and is obviously a magnet helping draw the flood of illegals across our borders. They come by the millions and millions and millions. They come from mental institutions. They come from jails, prisoners, some of the toughest, meanest people you'll ever see. The United States is among the only countries in the world that says that even if neither parent is a citizen nor even lawfully in the country, their future children are automatic citizens the moment the parents trespass onto our soil. As has been laid out by many scholars, this current policy is based on a historical myth and a willful misinterpretation of the law by the open borders advocates. There aren't that many of them around. It's amazing. Who wants this? Who wants to have prisoners coming into our country? Who wants to have people who are very sick coming into our country? People from mental institutions coming into our country?
People who need votes.
And come they will. They're coming by the thousands, by the tens of thousands. As part of my plan to secure the border on day one of my new term in office, I will sign an executive order making clear to federal agencies that under the correct interpretation of the law, going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship. It's things like this that bring millions of people to our country, and they enter our country illegally. My policy will choke off a major incentive for continued illegal immigration, deter more migrants from coming, and encourage many of the aliens Joe Biden has unlawfully let into our country to go back to their home countries. They must go back. Nobody could afford this. Nobody could do this. And even morally, it's so wrong. My order will also end their unfair practice known as birth tourism, where hundreds of thousands of people from all over the planet squat in hotels for their last few weeks of pregnancy to illegitimately and illegally obtain U.S. citizenship for the child, often to later exploit chain migration to jump the line and get green cards for themselves and their family members. It's a practice that's so horrible and so egregious, but we let it go forward.
Dominique, how are you?
At least one parent will have to be a citizen or a legal resident in order to qualify. We will secure our borders and we will restore our sovereignty starting on day one. Our country will be great again. Our country will be a country again. We'll have borders. We'll have proper education, and we'll put America first. Thank you.
Now, define proper education. Is this like the real education, or is it like the book education? Come on, Donald. We know. You know. Hello,
Joe Biden
Mom.
has run up record trade deficits, also known as losses, higher than any president in history by far. These gaping wounds are costing our country countless jobs and trillions of dollars in wealth. One of my top economic priorities will be to stem this bleeding and put American workers on a level playing field. It's about time. And I must say, I did it 3 years ago, and they were doing great. But that's been blown out the window by the Biden administration.
Yeah, you think about
But
it.
to
It
that-
took 'em 3 years to get the economy where we like, hell yeah. And then it went to shit. Is it going to take him another 3 years to get it back? Or does he have like a short-term plan? Short-term plan never ends up being good in the end.
To that end, I will pass landmark legislation that will be known as the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. If India, China, or any other country hits us with a 100 or 200% tariff on American-made goods, we will hit them with the same exact tariff. In other words, 100% is 100%.
You should do it 100%.
If they charge us, we charge them. An eye for an eye, a tariff for a tariff, same exact amount.
Piss egg for a piss
One
egg.
thing is going to happen. Probably they drop the tariff, but if they don't, that's okay. We'll take in plenty of money. Under the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act, other countries will have two choices. They will get rid of their tariffs on us, or they will pay us hundreds of billions of dollars, and the United States will make an absolute fortune. There will be no more unilateral economic surrender like we've done for many, many decades. This will especially help our great farmers in Iowa and other agricultural states, and it'll help our manufacturers all across the nation.
Haven't sold farms to the Chinese. Oh, yeah. That's a real thing.
We will be knocking down barriers to American farm products, American dairy products, steel, just about everything you can think of. From all around the world, they take advantage of us, but no more. We must have fairness and reciprocity. That's the word, reciprocity. They do it to us, we do it to them. This will be a key part of our strategy to return jobs and wealth to the United States and launch an economic boom that will lift up our middle class and eliminate our dependence on China and other countries. And it's something that has been waiting to happen for a long time. We have been the whipping post for everyone else. We have been a country that was disrespected on trade and frankly disrespected on just about everything. No more. The Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, keep in mind, all this was filmed, I believe, a year ago. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I showed it a year ago, but I just forgot about it. Till now, when I saw those idiots saying from The View, well, we're trying to get Project 2025. That's what Donald Trump wants. That's what the Republicans want when January 2025 happens. No, that's what the Heritage Foundation wants. Well, yeah, because cobalt's important to making batteries.
Crooked Joe Biden likes to pretend he stands up to Big Pharma, but in fact, I was the only president in modern times who ever took on Big Pharma, and I took it head on. Biden canceled my tough on pharma policies the moment he had a chance. As president, I signed a historic executive order declaring that the United States government would pay the same price for pharmaceuticals as other foreign countries, and no more. We didn't want to pay any more. Can you imagine that? How simple would that be? This would have saved American patients billions and billions of dollars. But shortly after taking office, Joe Biden...
5 milligram diazepam for a penny. A penny.
Biden rescinded my executive order stabbing patients and U.S. citizens, and especially our seniors, right in the back. For many years, Americans have been paying among the highest prices in the world for our prescription drugs, while other countries negotiate sweetheart deals off the backs of America, paying vastly lower prices for the very same drugs from the very same companies. This amounts to a gigantic subsidy for foreign socialist welfare systems, courtesy of you and the American people. On day one of my new term, I will sign an executive order to end this global freeloading on American consumers for once and for all. Under my policy, the United States government will tell Big Pharma that we will only pay the best price they offer to foreign nations who have been taking advantage of us for so long. The United States is tired of getting ripped off. We've been ripped off by everybody for so many decades. We're tired of it. Not going to happen. They should have never rescinded my original executive order. It just shows you the power of Big Pharma, but it will force Big Pharma to raise prices on foreign countries and reduce prices very substantially for American patients. It will deliver huge savings for seniors and for all American patients. Thank you very much. This was a very easy one, and this is
funny. When Biden said he lowered prescription drug prices, which was true at the time, he lowered 10 of the prescription drug prices, with more to come, of course. But it happens to be from a pharmaceutical company that went from nowhere to the number one medication or a pharmaceutical company in the world, or the United States, I'm sorry. How did that happen? No kickbacks there from the government.
is an honor to tell you, because this was something that never should have happened. They should have never. Crooked Joe Biden, our disgraced president, has wasted trillions of taxpayer dollars in less than 3 years, causing uncontrolled inflation that is crushing working families. Reining in Biden's wasteful and unnecessary spending is vital to stopping inflation and rescuing our economy from ruin.
Well, how about we do this, Donald? We go through just about every bill, because that's what congressmen are allowed to do, and we take out anything, whether it's conservative or liberal, that has nothing to do with the bill at hand, and strictly pass that bill. Can we do that? You know how much time that would be spent, well deserved? How much money we could save because they could move on to the next bill instead of arguing like little bitches because they want to see if giraffe dicks are bigger than moose dicks when you give them Viagra on the 13th of January, 2029.
But the pain of the spending cuts must be borne by the special interests in Washington bureaucrats, not by American families and American seniors in particular. For 200 years under our system of government, it was undisputed that the president had the constitutional power to stop unnecessary spending through what is known as impoundment. Very simply, this meant that if Congress provided more funding than was needed to run the government, the president could refuse to waste the extra funds and instead return the money to the general treasury and maybe even lower your taxes, although we did give you the biggest tax reduction in history and the biggest regulation reduction in history, two things I'm very proud of. And they still are there, although they're disappearing rapidly under Biden. Thomas Jefferson famously used this power, as did many other presidents, until it was wrongfully curtailed by the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. Not a very good act. This disaster of a law is clearly unconstitutional, a blatant violation of the separation of powers. When I return to the White House, I will do everything I can to challenge the Impoundment Control Act in court and, if necessary, get Congress to overturn it. We will overturn it. I will then use the president's long-recognized impoundment power to squeeze the bloated federal bureaucracy for massive savings. This will be in the form of tax reductions for you. This will help quickly to stop inflation.
No, since he wants to get rid of the tips, the tax on tips, right? What else? You know what would be good? If they would just get rid of the tax on inheritance. I don't understand why you got to pay a tax for something your family passed down to you. Can I put in my will that I want to pass my debt down to the United States government, but all my profits to my family? Right? Can I do that? Can I do that? No, like legit question.
And slash the deficit. To prepare for this eventuality, on day one, I will order every federal agency to begin identifying large chunks of their budgets that can be saved through efficiencies and waste reduction using impoundment. Of course, this will not include national defense. And unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, who doesn't really know what's happening, I will not lay a finger on Medicare or Social Security. He wants to destroy Social Security and basically obliterate Medicare. These are benefits for our seniors. We are not going to touch it. There are many other things we can do. We're not going to let Ron DeSantis do anything to hurt Medicare or Social Security. On the contrary, some of the funds we save through impoundment from other parts of the government can be used to strengthen Medicare and Social Security for years to come. Reasserting the president's historic impoundment authority will also restore critical negotiating leverage with Congress to keep spending under control. Very simple. We're going to keep spending under control. We had it done, and then COVID came in, and we had to do some things to help save our country. We did a great job, but we were starting to make lots of money. We were energy independent. We were going to be energy dominant. We were going to be taking in massive amounts of money from the liquid gold that we have under our feet more than any other nation. And we were going to reduce taxes and pay off debt. This is the only way we will ever.
All right, I take that back. Fuck the inheritance tax. I don't make $13 million on my estate.
Return a balanced budget, impoundment. Just as importantly, bringing back impoundment will give us a crucial tool with which to obliterate the deep state, drain the swamp, and starve the warmongers, these people that want wars all over the place, killing, killing, killing. They love killing. And the globalists out of our government. We're going to get.
So do you think I can get now that times have changed, because the Constitution is it's an adapting one. Can I can I make a killdozer, and is it legal? I'll make sure to get light. I'll put a tag on it. I mean, I'll get a VIN number. No, I won't.
The warmongers and the globalists out of our government. With impoundment, we can simply choke off the money. This policy is anti-inflation, anti-swamp, anti-globalist, and it's pro-growth, pro-taxpayer, pro-American, and pro-freedom. I alone can get that done. I'll get it done, and I'll make America great again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Come on, Donald.
Joe Biden is waging war in the U.S. auto industry with a series of crippling mandates. In a period of less than 1 week, Joe Biden accidentally admitted that we're sending cluster bombs to Ukraine because the United States is running out of ammunition. I don't know how that works, but that's what he said. Then he called up reserve forces to ship them to Europe, proving that we are running out of troops, and that's also a fact.
That's
We have
actually
very few people.
not a fact. But you know what? That's operational security. That is not a fact.
People signing up to join our military. These actions reveal just what an insanely dangerous situation Biden and the demented warmongers have led us into. Less than 3 years ago, I'd fully rebuilt the United States military and steered America into such a strong global position that peace was breaking out all over the world. We had peace through strength. 29 months later, the arsenals are empty, the stockpiles are bare, the
Oil's
treasury
gone.
is drained, the ranks are being hollowed out, our country has been totally humiliated, and we have a corrupt, compromised president, crooked Joe Biden, who is dragging us into World War III, and that's what's
But hey,
happening.
in good news, they want to make a totally green tank, right? No jet fuel whatsoever to get these tanks moving on down the field. All electric. It only takes 3,000 hours for one charge to charge for but in every, I don't know, 200-300 feet, you got to charge it again, or it's going to be batteries are going to be dead.
on behalf of a nation that paid his family millions and millions of dollars in obvious bribes. All you have to do is take a look at how much China, how much Ukraine have paid the Biden family. It's a total disgrace and a very dangerous one. Under these circumstances, the notion that we would even consider admitting Ukraine into NATO at this time is completely unhinged. Joe Biden can't even walk up a flight of stairs on Air Force One, and he can't put two sentences together. The last thing that this incompetent administration should be doing is risking war with a nuclear-armed Russia or China or other countries. We have somebody that doesn't have a clue representing us. When I'm back in the White House on day one, we are returning to a foreign policy that puts America's interests first.
That's the biggest thing. How is he going to get us out of what Joe Biden dug us into Ukraine? How is he going to get us out of what happened in Israel and how we pretty much are supporting another endless war because, well, there's no profit in war. How is he going to get us out of the situation with China and Taiwan, China and the Philippines, China and, the entire world, except for Russia? Then you got to think about it. Who is really the enemy? Is it Putin? Is it Zelensky? Is it Xi? Bibi? Benjamin Netanyahu, a war criminal, by the way, who's a celebrated war criminal by, our government. But it's okay. We're doing what's best for business. Not saying Donald's what's best for business, but at the time, he is what's best for business. Because Joe Biden, well, we know what's going on with him. Kamala Harris, she is probably the closest thing they'll have to a nominee this late in the game because, well, they've done all these polls, and she is polling higher than Joe Biden, which is still losing to Trump by a large margin. You notice one name you haven't heard of, which could be a sleeper now. Because you'll have the Democrats are like, man, fuck that. We don't want to vote for Joe Biden. And then you're going to have those conservatives or the Heritage Foundationers who are like, oh, we don't want we're never Trumpers. Who's left? Who's left? Well, if he becomes the Antichrist, don't forget, all enemies foreign and domestic. And we're here to take out tyranny. That's why we were founded. I lost my train of thought, Yeti. Fuck. Oh. Then you have RFK. I don't know if I can get behind RFK because he believes in reparations as well as, late-term abortion. So, that's just me, personally. I'm not saying it's not okay to have a fucking abortion. I'm not saying it's okay to have an abortion. I'm just saying I have my personal beliefs and you have your personal beliefs. It is what it is. But a federal ban on abortion is kind of retarded. It should be left up to the states. Of course, we know that the Civil War was because, well, the South wanted to have their own individual sovereignties instead of bowing down to the federal government. And we saw what happened there. They got put in check. History's good. History's good. You can apply it to everything now. Well, if you know history. He is Yeti. And, I was going to be pretty up high up there. Right now, it's pretty much who is going to be Donald Trump's vice president. This son of a bitch knows who it is. Everyone in his circle knows who it is. Why are we waiting? Are we waiting for them to change Joe Biden? Because maybe they'll put Gavin Newsom as in the vice president. And they have to pick somebody that can debate good against Newsom. Oh, and by the way, guess who already beat Newsom in a debate? That's right, Ron DeSantis. The possibilities are out there. But I really think it all hinges on who Donald Trump puts as vice president, because we know Joe Biden's not going to be the nominee. Don't let anyone lie to you unless they keep him up like Weekend at Bernie's. But even CNN and a good majority of the rest of the country are seeing into the bullshit that the media is trying to portray. However, you still have that 35% out there that believes Joe Biden is the best thing since sliced bread. It was just 90 minutes. He wasn't in his best form. He was in Normandy. He was at the G7 summit. He was probably still exhausted from that, even though he took 7 days to vacation at Camp David to get over jet lag. Yeah, he might have had jet lag, from DC to Atlanta. It's whatever. It's not Joe Biden's fault, guys. It's his schedule. Well, I kind of want to have a president that can, withstand shit like jet lag, but that's me. And I never got it anyway, even when I did fly overseas. I'm not telling y'all how to think. I'm just telling y'all to think. I'm not telling y'all to vote for Donald Trump. I'm just saying, vote for who you want. I'm just telling you who I'm probably going to vote for. And I'll be damned if I tell... I'm not... Like I said, I'll be damned if I have somebody tell me how I should live my life, so I'm not going to tell you how to live yours. I'm just giving my opinion. Peace, love, chicken grease, and I don't mean that in a racist kind of way, because who else in here loves fried chicken? It's not necessarily just for black people, you fucking racist, ignorant